Porpoising is a phenomenon that causes the new F1 cars to violently bounce up and down on their rear suspensions at near top speeds. The name comes from cars imitating the motion that porpoises make when moving through the ocean and is limited to ground effect cars. It hardly needs to be said that there's a lot of very intense work going on at Mercedes trying to understand and rectify its porpoising problem. Do you want to know about it? Well, stay tuned to the video and watch the video till the end. Hello fellow Formula 1 lovers, welcome to Grand Prix Zone. Hit the subscribe button and turn on the notifications to join us as we deep dive into the Formula 1 drivers, teams and cars. Hit the like button to show your support, and in this video we're going to talk about why is Red Bull not porpoising. So without any further ado, let's begin. Until that's done, it's not in any shape to compete with Red Bull and Ferrari. Red Bull has reportedly found a solution to the porpoising phenomenon that has caught the entire F1 grid off guard. The Red Bull sidepod design, with the ultra-aggressive undercut at the front, has been one of the big technical talking points of the 2022 Formula 1 preseason so far, because it's one of the most visually distinctive designs. The design is attempting to do the same thing that all of the F1 teams are doing with their sidepods. It's just one interpretation of it. Red Bull is said to have accidentally counteracted the porpoising issue that has been caused by the new technical regulations. In sweeping changes to the cars, the downforce is now generated by aerodynamics underneath the car rather than on the chassis, and this is known as the ground effect. The top surface is now less square and has been reshaped to be much more progressive and three-dimensional. As part of that, there's now a downwash channel created that sweeps the airflow down into the Coke bottle area. It's all about getting more airflow through the Coke bottle area, and it's what every team is trying to do regardless of their individual concept. The German publication also indicated that some teams believe that Adrian Newey's design was not specifically aimed at solving the bouncing problem, but they found their way out of it anyway. According to Greek motorsport journalist Dimitris Bizas, the Milton Keynes-based team has engineered a new rear suspension that can adapt to conditions after hitting 250 km/h and cuts out the bouncing caused by porpoising. Teammate Sergio Perez will have it for the subsequent race in Saudi Arabia. The floor has also changed as part of the package. At the front of the floor, the outer barge board replacement vane has been turned in a little at the lower leading edge and bottom edge. There are some very powerful turning vanes mounted directly on the rear wheel insider, fairing picking up that flow and turning it upwards, so generating quite a bit of suction on this area inside the wheel. These winglets put aerodynamic load directly onto the rear wheel assembly without it going through the suspension. That means the downforce is there immediately and consistently when the chassis is moving during braking. Together, these set up a vortex that travels down the outer edge of the rear part of the floor. This will be rotating clockwise on this side of the car when looked at from the front. There also appears to have been some reinforcement of the outer floor edge further back, which is no surprise given the potential for damaging these low-slung, highly loaded floors. At the rear, the ramp on the inboard side of the floor that sweeps up to the top surface of the diffuser starts a little earlier. Since Red Bull surprised itself by gaining 3/4 of a second, the competition assumes that Adrian Newey's team found its way out of the porpoising earlier by chance, the medium states. At standstill, the Red Bull is relatively high at the rear, but the strong sparking betrays that the car sinks with increasing speed without bouncing. This will be to make it more sympathetic to the airflow on the top surface in this area, and is important to allow the vortices traveling down the sides of the floor to generate without being disturbed by step changes in the floor surface. I guess if the active suspension was there, that could be solved with a click of your fingers, Russell said. And the cars would naturally be a hell of a lot faster if we had that, and I'm sure all the teams are capable of that. So that could be one for the future. But let's see in Bahrain. I'm sure all of the teams will come up with some smart ideas around this issue. Journalist Matt Summerfield, writing for Autosport.com, has described the Ice Skate edition on the cars, which he says ensures numerous performance advantages. With porpoising remaining such a headache and the role the floor aero plays in this being critical, there has been some intrigue since Imola about a concept Red Bull is using on the underside of its RB18, he wrote in Autosport. Red Bull's floor features an ice skate strake, a metal strip with holes in it, which sits in the rear outer corner of the floor and appears to offer numerous performance advantages. One suggestion is that the metal strake inhibits the floor's flexion under load, so stops porpoising being triggered too early. Red Bull's Saturday upgrade included a modified front wing, that wasn't a dramatic change but was all about continuing to optimize the trim detail of the trailing edge of the top rear flap. According to Greek motorsport journalist Dimitris Bizas, the Milton Keynes-based team has engineered a new rear suspension that can adapt to conditions after hitting 250 km/h and cuts out the bouncing caused by porpoising. Teammate Sergio Perez will have it for the subsequent race in Saudi Arabia. The floor has also changed as part of the package. At the front of the floor, the outer barge board replacement vane has been turned in a little at the lower leading edge and bottom edge. The first version was a relatively conventional 2022 concept. The load increases as the wing move outboard from the nose, with the maximum load approximately at the midpoint span-wise. Red Bull then changed this to reduce the inboard load further. This wouldn't necessarily induce better flow in this area, but there would be a little more transverse flow on the undersurface outwards to the part of the flap with the longest chord length. Teams are working hard to find ways to create or increase the outwash effects in certain areas, and this was presumably felt to be a way to add to that. On the Ferrari, the porpoising is clearly only being triggered at speeds beyond which the fastest corners are taken. Even the high-speed porpoising at the end of the straights could be eliminated, but it would mean less downforce available for the corners and braking. Leclerc talked a little about it in Australia. We need to tackle it because it can affect consistency, but it's not like I could have gone faster if it wasn't for the bouncing. The only time it was a factor was on the restarts. I wasn't confident. I could brake extremely hard for turn 1 on the restart because of the bouncing. But otherwise, it was okay. Mercedes' problem is not the bouncing per se, but the amount of downforce they have to surrender to keep it from doing it in the corners. So the corners is the issue. There will be many other subtle parts to this upgrade, as it's all about refining the airflow to make the car concept that Red Bull started with work better once you've understood if your car correlates on track with your design philosophy, wind tunnel and CFD findings, then you're on your way to improving its performance. The fact it bolted it all on the car on Saturday and ended up fastest with a car that looks well balanced on track and that it appears to understand is very encouraging for the team. Since Red Bull surprised itself by gaining 3/4 of a second, the competition assumes that Adrian Newey's team found its way out of the porpoising earlier by chance, the medium states. At standstill, the Red Bull is relatively high at the rear, but the strong sparking betrays that the car sinks with increasing speed without bouncing. Now that we've come to the end of this video, I want to thank you for sticking with me, and I'd love to know what you think of it. Just comment down below. Also, if you like this video, make sure you like it and stay safe. The video's over, but if you want to see more, there's one on your screen right now, and there are a few more Formula 1 videos coming soon. I'll see you in the next video, guys.